So yesterday we were looking at the reasons for failure of public policies in India. So we have said that the most important reason is the conflict between this welfare and development. Since independence, maximum number of anti-poverty schemes have focused only on poverty alleviation than on poverty removal. They only focused on poverty alleviation than on poverty removal. They are focused only on providing immediate relief to the people in the form of subsidies than on creating employment and improving human resources. And we also have said that political populism dominated our policy making for a long period of time since independence. It is because of the political imperatives also. Political parties, they had to win elections after every 5 years. So people cannot wait for the fruits of development to reach them for longer periods of time. So political parties always had to go for a compromise, wherein they gave almost all the time more importance to this welfare than long-term sustainable development. So that was the reason why the capital expenditure was very less. Almost the expenditure on human resource development was almost negligible. Social capital was never given any importance. Only importance that was given was physical capital. And between 1951 and 1989, during this 1990, during these 7 5-year plans, these 35 years, what we have seen is only focus more on this physical capital only. The planning process has completely ignored social capital, education and health. After 1991, we have mentioned that this liberalization has changed again completely the direction of our development process, with India giving a lot more importance to the private sector. Unfortunately, in this neoliberal state, we have given more importance to again physical capital. And as part of this neoliberal state, we have privatized, outsourced the two critical sectors, education and health, to the private sector. So only those who could pay for this quality education and quality health are the ones ultimately benefited out of this LPG. Whereas there was no visible improvement in the services provided by the government, especially in education and health. So poorest sections of society remained poor. They could not have access to better education or better health. So again, there was no human resource development. We could not transform our demographic bulge into demographic dividend. On top of it, if you look at it, the problem of unemployment was accentuated more by what is called uneven growth also. After 1991, maximum amount of growth had taken place because of the tertiary sector, services sector. And service sector is less labor intensive. The only sector that is more labor intensive is manufacturing sector, not agriculture. Manufacturing sector. Agriculture, we already have so much of disguised unemployment. So manufacturing sector, unfortunately, manufacturing sector, we have not seen any visible improvement since liberalization. We had come out with schemes like Make in India. The objective of Make in India was to increase the share of manufacturing sector in our GDP from around 16.8% to 25%. After Make in India was implemented, it had come down to 13.8%. Break in India, right? So unfortunately, that is where the problem was. So that's the reason why the government had launched one more program called Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, wherein a PLO scheme and other things. Still, manufacturing sector is only hovering around 15.8% as part of our GDP contribution. Without manufacturing sector, there cannot be any employment also, because in service sector it is very capital intensive, and that is where again it was problematic. Again, in the service sector there is huge amount of disparity in the incomes. Why? Because high skilled jobs, because of lack of availability of skilled manpower, high skilled jobs always commanded very high salaries also, whereas low skilled jobs, the salaries are also very less, because of again absence of skilled manpower, again because of the fact that we did not give importance to this improvement of skills as part of our employment. So these were all the problems. So let us now look at what should be done. What are the solutions? Yesterday we have seen all those problems, right? Let us see what should be the solutions. So what can be done? So what do you think can be done to improve the situation? Tomorrow you are made finance secretary, and the finance minister will ask you, please tell me what should we do to improve employment in the country. What will you tell? First you resign so that one person will get job. Next, so what will you say? Please remember, again these are all ethics case studies only. So what can we do to ensure inclusive growth, job-led growth, and to ensure long-term sustainable growth? What are the suggestions will you give? Of course, nobody will ask you. I'm just only making the assumption that someone is asking you. We can understand if they're asking you what is their fate would be, right? So what do you suggest? What are the reforms would you suggest? Investment in social capital. Okay, fine. Then governance reforms. Okay. And then okay, MSMEs, you want to give priority to MSMEs. Then participation of industries in infrastructure. Okay. What else? Skill development, which we don't have. Okay, right. Okay. Okay. Next, government investment in social infrastructure. Okay. Right. Education reforms, starting with yourself. Right. So let us see what should be done. So what we have mentioned yesterday, if you remember, this is what we have mentioned. We said that since people are poor, the government is giving subsidies. And since the government is giving subsidies, we said people are poor. Right? So what is the solution then for this problem? Since people are poor, government is giving subsidies. Since the government is giving subsidies, people are poor. How do you come out of this vicious cycle? So the first question is, can we stop all those welfare schemes? No, people will die. If we continue with the welfare schemes, country will die. People will remain poor. So what is the solution? That is what we say. What we say is that all these welfare schemes should have a limited time period. They cannot be continued forever. We cannot continue these welfare schemes. We have been providing food security for the last more than 50 years. We cannot be providing like this. There must be what is called shelf life for all these welfare schemes. Let us assume that a person is taking birth today. Let we continue this scheme for a period of 25 years. Let the schemes be continued. At the age of 25, he must be in a position to get a job also. Right? At the age of 25. So let these schemes be there for a period of 25 years. And every year, the amount of money spent on the scheme should be coming down. Every year, progressively. Every year. So that at the end of the 25th year, we don't need to spend any amount of money. When every year we are reducing the amount of money we are spending, automatically what happens? There will be more amount of money that will be available for capital expenditure. So every year you should be increasing your capital expenditure also. Because at the end of the day, it is only about the capital expenditure that can ensure you what is called a long-term sustainable inclusive growth. So there must be political consensus in the country that we must limit these welfare schemes to a specific period of time. Otherwise, if you keep on giving these welfare schemes all the time, then where is the end to it? Unfortunately, what is happening is that once you start a scheme, is it possible for any government to stop the scheme? Today one political party is in power and other political parties coming to power. Can they stop the schemes of the previous political party? Obviously not. Because once people are used to these freebies, they will never allow any government to stop them. On the other hand, they will want political parties to increase more the number of these schemes. Where do you get the money? And where is the limit and what is the consequence? Countries will get into what is called debt trap. That is what exactly happened in Sri Lanka. What did Sri Lankan government do? On the one hand, they have reduced the taxes, both income tax and GST and everything. On the other hand, they have provided so many freebies. The country went into a situation of debt trap. Very simple. Because the government also needs money. And the government needs money to be spent on capital expenditure. And on top of which, Sri Lanka had taken a huge amount of loan from this Chinese government. And it went into the trap. Because if you must have read in the newspapers also, recently Sri Lanka is negotiating with the consortium of countries regarding providing a loan relief to them. India has also agreed for higher cut. That means we have given them say $2 billion loans. We'll say that give us only $1 billion, we will be more than happy. So $1 billion we'll treat it as bad debts. Similarly, IMF has said the same thing. Other donor countries to Sri Lanka also have said the same thing. But Chinese government is saying that no, we don't want to have any kind of writing off the loans. We want Sri Lankan government to not only pay the loans but also the rate of interest also. So that is how the countries classically would get into debt trap. And that is what India also has to guard itself against. As at a recent meeting that was held, a cabinet secretary has commented that almost 10 states in India are in the same situation as that of Sri Lanka. Had those states been independent countries, they would have got into debt trap. Why? Because of these freebies. Of these freebies. So you cannot continue. The solution that we are providing here is let there be time limit for these welfare schemes. And every year the amount of money should be progressively reduced. The first solution. Second solution we say here is that identifying beneficiaries. Identify right kind of beneficiaries. For example, take the case of City of Bangalore, Food Security Act is there, wherein free food grains are given. When Niti Aayog and before that Planning Commission had conducted a survey, it is said that in the City of Bangalore, there were more number of white ration cards than the population of Bangalore. White ration cards are basically given to BPL families so that they can get these free food grains. And please remember, ration cards are given to the households, not to the individuals. And there were more number of ration cards than the whole population of Bangalore. Narayana Murthy, Ajiz Premji, all of them were living below poverty line. We used to think that they are billionaires, right? That is where the problem is. Almost recently, you must have seen in Indian Express newspaper also, this PMJAY, Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, with the same telephone number, there were around 9 lakh beneficiaries. Excellent, the way the scheme is implemented. And take the case of NRAGA. You have so many fake beneficiaries who do not deserve any of those subsidies. On the other hand, this political populism, as we have discussed, has spread to local self-governments also. Delhi state government gives free electricity, free water. And the per capita income of Delhi is the highest in the country. If you take current prices, per capita income of Delhi is 5 lakh rupees. So that means a minimum 40,000 rupees per month. And can't they pay for electricity or water? That is where the problem is. We have to identify the beneficiaries. These are the things, I don't know whether you have studied or not, PDS reforms in your agriculture topic. You must have heard about the Shantakumar committee. And what did they suggest? Last year it was asked for 15 marks. What did they suggest, Shantakumar committee? FCA reforms, okay. Then, see, please remember, when you listen to them in the class, it looks very easy. If you don't revise, you cannot remember. As I told you, 1 day in a week, please reserve only for revision of what you have studied in the rest of the 6 days. And you will see that that 7th day will be holiday because rest of the 6 days you have not studied anything. Right? But revise. Revision is very important. It looks very easy on paper, but revise. The problem Shantakumar committee has identified is with Food Corruption of India, Food Corporation of India. We fondly call it as Food Corruption of India. The security guard outside the gates of Food Corruption of India, his monthly salary is more than that of the president. He gets more than 5 lakh rupees per month salary. I have applied recently only. Right? So that is where the problem is. And of course, in a state of Karnataka, they had come out with some innovative reforms. Right now, we follow the inclusion principle. Inclusion. That means you are identifying those sections of society who should be included in this PDS. So what they have suggested that instead of inclusion, follow the exclusion principle. Identify those sections who can be excluded from these PDS reforms. Who can be excluded? Government servants, they can be excluded. Then those who have houses in these big cities. If you have a house in Delhi, it means that you are a rich person. You don't require. In Haryana, recently, people were going to these PDS shops in cars. It happened. So those who have 4-wheelers and those who have 2-wheelers, if you are buying a 2-wheeler means 70,000, 80,000 rupees. That means you must have that much amount of money. Do you require a PDS? Similarly, those who have refrigerators and washing machines, exclude all of them from PDS. That is what it is said. Instead of inclusion principle, let us follow exclusion principle. Automatically, you will come to know about the poor people and give it. Recently, you must have seen, Niti Aayog also has said that only 12 to 13% of our population is living below poverty line now. You must have seen the reports also. Only 12 to 13%. If that is the case, why are we giving 67% of our population PDS? Right? Let us assume that 13% they are living below poverty line. Who are the remaining more than 50% population? Imagine if you can remove all of them from PDS, you will be saving at least 3 to 4 lakh crores minimum. You will be saving. The same amount of money can be spent on infrastructure. That is what the solution. And another solution that is suggested by Shantakumar committee is close this FCI. We have centralized in a warehousing system, food procurement. Close FCI and have decentralized procurement system. Let the procurement be done at the mandal level, at the district level. Then you will be saving a lot of money, because maximum amount of money is spent only on procurement and storage of food grains. Let it be done in a decentralized manner, and let the private sector be invited, to have more warehouses and cold storage houses. Let there be more. Close FCI, you will be saving a lot of money. And similarly, it has also suggested that subsidies in kind should be replaced with the subsidies in cash. These food subsidies, let them be replaced with DBTs, direct benefits transfers. Then if you are having DBTs, you will be saving at least more than 50% of food subsidies, because 50% of the food subsidy is going only into procurement, storage and transportation. That is where the problem is. These are all very simple solutions, but no government is willing to talk or think about them. Why? Because they are all highly politically unpopular. That is what it should be done. Because if you are saving that much amount of money, the same amount of money can be immediately spent on infrastructure. Imagine every at least 2-3 lakh crores you are saving from all these measures. The same amount of money can be spent on infrastructure. And this, if you are spending the money on infrastructure, as we study in economy also, there will be multiplier effect. Multiplier effect. The government investment always has multiplier effect. And it will provide employment. It will improve infrastructure. It will create, it will ensure industrialization. It can help in improving the skills of the people also. All this is what is needed. Please remember, solutions are very simple. They are in front of us. But the problem is that the governments are not willing to take those steps. Similarly, another solution, we have FRBM legislation. As we studied in polity also, it has not been implemented. Let FRBM be made much more strict. How? Let in the FRBM Act, let there be more provisions. Every state government must spend at least 6% of its expenditure on 6% of its GDP on education, and similarly another 6% of its GDP on health. Right now, India is one of the countries which spends lowest on both education and health, 1.7%, like that. That is where social capital becomes important. That is where human resource development it becomes important. Let them spend so that we can transform our demographic bulge into demographic dividend. Next solution we say here is that let us change the education system. Right now, the education system was designed a long time back by the East India Company, Lord Macaulay. You must have studied about this Wood's Dispatch also, right? So what was the essence of that education system? Lord Macaulay has said that he wanted to create an army of clerks for East India Company. The same thing is continued. Even after completing graduation, how many of them have the necessary skills to get employment in the private sector? Forget about graduation. Nowadays, we have expanded the number of IITs also, except the top 4 IITs. In the rest of IITs also, people are not able to get jobs. If graduates from IITs are not able to get jobs, you can understand, rest of the other institutions. India has the largest number of MBA colleges. Every year we are producing lakhs of MBA graduates, and they are working for 10,000, 20,000 rupees. Recently in Madhya Pradesh, when the state government had announced some jobs for class 4 employees in the state assembly, as there's gardeners and other people, class 4 employees, and who have applied? PhD. Yes, it is a fact. That is where the problem. When the railways announced 25,000 jobs, they received more than 2 crore applications. 25,000 jobs and 2 crore applications. And you must have seen, the railways had to cancel the recruitment process also in states like UP and Bihar also, because of the problems that had taken place there. Why? Because our education system is not designed to the needs of modern organizations. We still continue with the traditional methods of education, wherein it does not provide any skills. It has nothing to do with the industries. What is the difference here? You go to foreign countries, they will not be spending their time in unnecessarily in these colleges. The focus is more on developing skills, practical skills, and that is the reason why they have continuous contacts with industry. So they will be in contact with industries as part of the education. 6 months they will be studying, and remain 6 months they will be working also, apprenticeship. So that once they complete their graduation, they would be in a position to get better employment also. And in India, we don't have that kind of system. We are not at all focusing on skills, because we are still continuing with the colonial education system. That is what we say: education, skills, and employment. All of them are interrelated. For example, what are sunrise industries in India? Sunrise industries are, what are they? Okay, food processing, where employment potential is very high. MSMEs, okay. Then, yeah, food processing, the same thing. Yes, anything? Yeah, tourism sector. If you happen to see yesterday's news, in the last 7 months, India has only attracted 35 lakh tourists. Only 35 lakhs. A small city state like Singapore attracts every month at least 1 crore. With such a huge country, why we cannot attract tourists? If you are attracting tourists, automatically it will create so much of employment. The solutions are very easy, but the only thing is that we need visionary leadership. Visionary leadership. Not leadership of vision, visionary leadership. Right? Yes, of course, leadership of vision has a lot of visionary leadership. Right? So that is what we say. And that is where the problems, the solutions are also very easy here. You have to identify after a 12th standard, not a why after 12th standard, after a 9th standard, from then onwards, 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th. This is where you start providing skills, because this is what you study in any economic system. As and when economy grows, there will be always huge amount of demand for manual skilled workers. For example, carpenters, electricians, plumbers, right? These are all the things. Why can't we teach them after a 9th or 10th standard? By the time they come out, they don't have to look for employment. They can become employers themselves. They can become employers themselves. That is where, that is what we talk about Startup India. Unfortunately, in India, this Startup India or Skill India, we only think in terms of software. How many jobs are provided in the software industry? Right now, thanks to artificial intelligence, they are losing jobs only. They are not providing any jobs. For example, take the case of an electrician in Delhi. He can easily earn 50,000 rupees per month, very easily. I said, whenever any economy, go to countries like UK or USA, you don't find this kind of skilled manual labor. In UK or USA, if you have to call a carpenter to your house, you have to do the carpenter work in 10 houses to pay for this carpenter. Right? If you have to employ, say housemaid, you have to work as housemaid in 4 houses, because they charge you. The same thing right now in India also, you can see suddenly, these what you call services had become very costly. Take the case of drivers. So why can't? Sometime back, one of my students in Bihar, a district collector, That's what he called me. He said that, sir, we are starting this one NRLM, National Rural Livelihood Mission, NRLM. And he said that, this is what we are doing. I said that please continue with all these programs also, include many of these skills. And immediately, so many people from his district got jobs. That is what we call innovative leadership. And they come to Delhi and they earn so much amount of money. In India, what is the problem here? In India, employment people think is only sitting in air-conditioned rooms and sitting in front of a desk and doing something on the laptop. That is what people think employment. The basic problem with India is that we don't have what is called dignity of labor. We don't have dignity of labor, and we consider anything else as what you call this blue collar workers. That is where the problem is. And another problem with India, please, all these things you have to write in your economy only. What is the difference between India and America in terms of employment? In America, nobody looks for permanent employment. If you look at America, almost 80% of American labor force is only contractual employment. Whereas in India, everyone wants only permanent employment. Contractual employment there. And the basic problem with labor laws in India. The labor laws are so rigid that you will, once you are appointed, if you work there for around 10-12 years, nobody can remove you for the rest of your service, howsoever inefficient you may be. That is the reason why most of the industries in India do not want to call themselves industries from the perspective of this employment. And that is the reason why you have so much of informal labor. Why? Because we have so much of what is called rigid labor laws. We don't have what is called hire and fire policy. That means I will be recruiting a person. If I believe that the person is not efficient, I should be able to remove that person, because industry, what really matters is only efficiency and skills. And we don't have that kind of culture. And all these things combined together have made sure that we have only this what is called dependency culture. That means for everything we depend only on the government. For how long? Can it be sustained? That is where the problem is. And that's the reason why we have to focus on all these things, as part of solutions. And of course, we have to implement so many governance reforms, to reduce corruption, to prevent misuse of resources, to remove fake beneficiaries, to fix accountability, to transform outlays into outcomes. That is what we have to implement also. So let us take down all these things. What should be done? Yeah. That's what I am saying. Why only ITS? From 9th standard onwards, education will be 8 months. Remaining 4 months should be providing skills training. New education policy. I think that you'll be studying as part of education and health. That will be part of social justice. The new education policy spoke about these things, but not in a more authoritative manner. That is where the problem is. New education policy definitely spoke about creating this connect between education, skills, and employment. Right? So let us look at the solutions. What should be done? Look at the solutions. What should be done? To overcome the problem of vicious cycle of poverty, VICIOUS, vicious cycle of poverty, it is suggested that there should be a limit on lifespan of welfare schemes. Lifespan. of welfare schemes. For example, they can be implemented for a period of 25 years. If a child is taking birth today, full stop. If a child is taking birth today, comma, he or she must be in a position to get gainful employment, gainful GAINFUL employment within 25 years. Amount of subsidies, same point. Amount of subsidies should be reduced progressively during this period. Amount saved by the government, next paragraph, amount saved by the government should be spent on capital expenditure. Next solution, second solution. Next solution. As suggested by Second Administrative Reforms Commission, Niti Aayog, pay commissions and other commissions, the number of centrally sponsored schemes should be reduced to less than 10. At present, more than 580 schemes are implemented. By both central and state governments. For example, in the agriculture sector itself, many schemes are implemented, including so what are the schemes in agriculture sector? Including fertilizer subsidies, subsidized credit facilities, irrigation subsidies, insurance schemes, storage and marketing subsidies, storage and marketing subsidies, comma DBT, direct benefit transfers, in brackets PM Kisan, PM Kisan, PM Kisan, comma you have written fertilizers, yeah, okay. Then what are the other subsidies that are given in the agriculture sector? Yeah, power and water subsidies, power and water subsidies. Then MSP, minimum support price, and food subsidies also. Yeah, and food subsidies, food subsidies. So these are all the subsidies that are given to farmers. So what we are saying is that combine all these programs, calculate the amount of money that you are spending, give that money to the farmers, simple. And what will you be doing here? When you combine all these programs, calculate the money, give the money to the farmers, you will be spending, saving a lot of money on administrative expenses, and focus more on capital expenditure in agriculture sector. Again, you must have studied these things in agriculture. From 1980s onwards, what is the visible trend that we can see in the agriculture sector? From 1980s onwards, again this year all these questions are asked in your Indian economy. Good number of questions are asked in your Indian economy from this year economy paper, from agriculture only. So what is the visible trend that you can see in agriculture from 1980s? Pardon? That was there long time back. The visible trend you can see is that public investment in agriculture had come down from 1980s onwards. Public investment means investment by the government in agriculture sector had come down drastically since 1980s. Where can government invest in agriculture sector? What are the areas where the government can invest in agriculture sector? Yes, irrigation, okay, then yes, warehouses and cold storage houses, then transportation, then power, then where can the government invest? Yes, research and development, what you call it as agricultural extension services, right? So in a fertilizer, government is already investing, we should reduce the investment, because fertilizer investment is a completely waste of money, right? So this is where what we are saying is that since 1980s onwards, public investment is coming down. Why? Subsidies are increasing, subsidies are going up. That is where the problem is. Investment is coming down, subsidies are going up. And what is the consequence? What is the consequence of declining public investment and increasing subsidies? What is the consequence? More dependence of a farmer on government. The consequence is Indian say crops, especially wheat or rice, in terms of productivity are not able to compete with the rest of the world. For example, if you take the case of this output, agricultural output in India, if you make a comparison between India and China, China has 50% of land under cultivation compared to India, but the total output of China is at least twice more than that of India. This is where the problem is. Imagine if you can focus more on infrastructure, you can reduce 50% of our land under cultivation and use that land for other purposes without adversely impacting the output also. Still, you must have studied, only 40% of our area is irrigated. 60% depends on monsoon for their survival. Why? Because we have not invested. This is where we talk about capital expenditure. From 1980s onwards, what we have witnessed is this populism, political populism in agriculture sector. Give everything free of cost. On top of it, we started DBT, PM Kisan. Right? That is where the problem is. That is what you are writing here. Combine all these programs and calculate the amount of money you are spending and transfer 50% of the money into the accounts of farmers. Remaining 50% let it be spent on capital expenditure. That is what we are providing the solutions. It can be done provided, as I keep on saying, we have a visionary policy makers. We can do that. It can be done. Promote what is called organic farming. Right now, there is so much of demand in foreign countries for organic products. Right? And on top of it, what we are doing, every year we are increasing our fertilizer subsidy. That is what MS Swaminathan, he spoke about. We need, he said that green revolution in India had been transformed into greed revolution. That's what he said. Green revolution had been transformed into greed revolution. And that is the reason why he said that we need evergreen revolution. Of course, recently he died and our Prime Minister had written a beautiful article also. But where are we implementing it? That is where the problem. So this is what another solution that we are offering. Either combine all the programs and calculate the amount of money that is being spent. 50% of money transfer into the accounts of the farmers, DBTs. Remaining 50% spent on capital expenditure. That is what the solution, right? That is what we have said, reduce the number of centrally sponsored schemes to less than 10. Similarly, take the case of education. Take the case of education. We are spending, we have so many programs. We have so many programs in education sector, both by the education is part of right now concurrent list. So, you have the central government programs, state government programs, national education policies, states education policies, and you have so many programs. And what is happening? Nobody, average child, does not know any of those programs. Where is the money going for all those programs? That is what we say systematic corruption. So let us remove all of them. Only one program for education. And focus more on, as I said, 50% give DBTs. Remaining 50% spend on improving the quality of education right from the kindergarten to the post graduation, so that we can transform. Similarly, you don't require PMJAY. Today also you must have seen in newspapers there were advertisements about how many beneficiaries benefited out of insurance scheme. If you can improve the quality of government hospitals, do you need these kind of insurance schemes? So focus more on primary healthcare centers, PHCs, community healthcare centers, district healthcare centers, so that people don't have to look for private healthcare facilities, rather than having what is called this kind of insurance schemes. This is what we study in mathematics. What we study in mathematics is that shortest distance between 2 points is always straight line. Shortest distance between 2 points is always straight line. What the government is doing? Like this they are going. This is where government, and this is where citizens. You are going like this. Remove all those intermediaries, have direct contact, and focus on improving the quality of services provided by the government. Focus on improving quality of services provided by the government. That is where we talk about citizen charters and social audits. Next solution, you can write. Next solution. Identifying beneficiaries. Identifying beneficiaries. According to recent report of Niti Ayog, around 14% of our population, are living below poverty line. But under the Food Security Act, almost 67% of our population, are given subsidized food grains. And the expenditure runs into lakhs of crores. Of rupees. If exclusion principle is followed, most of the undeserving beneficiaries can be removed from PDS. It helps the government in saving huge amount of taxpayers' money. And it can be used for capital expenditure. Right? That is what in the solution. Next solution. Subsidies in kind. Can be replaced with subsidies in cash. Subsidies in kind can be replaced with subsidies in cash. For example, over a period of time, food subsidies can be replaced with cash transfers. India has built world-class digital public infrastructure. In the last 10 years. And it can be used for direct benefits transfers. It can help in saving huge amount of administrative expenditure, huge amount of administrative expenditure, and also in eliminating corruption, and also in eliminating corruption. Right, this is another solution. Next solution, FRBM legislation, fiscal responsibility and budget management. FRBM, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act, can be amended by including the following provisions. By including the following provisions. What are they? First, it should be made mandatory. It should be made mandatory for the state governments to spend at least 6% of their GDP on education. Similarly, another 6% should be spent on health. Should be spent on health. India is one of those countries. India is one of those countries wherein emphasis on social capital and human resource development has not been given any significance in the overall growth and development of the country. In the overall growth and development of the country. Growth and development of the country. Right. This is another solution. Next solution. Under FRBM only. These are the no, this is next solution, not FRBM. Next solution. Changes should be made to education system. Changes should be made to education system with the focus on skill training, full stop. Educational institutions should be connected to industrial organizations so that the gap between demand and supply can be reduced in the labor market. Next solution. Citizen charters, CITIZEN, citizen charters, CHARTER, should be made mandatory for all developmental and welfare schemes. It helps in participation of stakeholders in governance and also in improving the quality of service delivery mechanisms. Why? What happened? What happened? Huh? Okay. Next solution. Social audits should also be made mandatory. Social audits should also be made mandatory for welfare schemes to transform TRANSFORM the moral responsibility of bureaucracy into legal accountability. Next, e-governance should also be made mandatory from the lowest level to the topmost level. In administration. It can help in overcoming the problems of red tapeism and corruption. Right. So these are all the solutions we say to make our public policies effective. These are all the solutions. So we will be talking some of them in a more detailed manner. As I said, we will be talking about citizen charters, social audits, and e-governance, and of course we will also look at DBTs, direct benefits transfers. What are the advantages and what are the problems with the DBTs? We have to look at all of them. So, for example, take the case of DBTs. We know what are the advantages. Money can be directly transferred into the accounts of people. It can help in reducing corruption. It can ensure timely delivery of benefits to the people. It can also reduce administrative expenditure. These are all the advantages. What are the problems with the DBT? What is the problem with the direct benefits transfers? What are the problems? From since you have studied economics, from the point of view of an economist, what could be the problems with the DBT? Yes, it can result in misuse of money. For example, the money is given for education of children. The money will be spent on liquor consumption. So how can we see whether the money is spent on the purpose for which it has been given? Right, that is where the problem. Is there any mechanism where we can see that the money is spent on the purpose for which it has been given? Yes. Once the money is transferred into your account, how do I know what you are doing with that money? Coupon system. I am talking about DBTs. I am talking about direct benefit transfers. For example, the government is transferring money into the accounts of farmers. 6,000 rupees in a year, 2,000 rupees after every 4 months. So what are they doing with that money? Are they spending money on the purpose for which it has been given? That is where the problem is. Next, what are the other problems with the DBTs? Pardon? So right now with the DBTs, what happens automatically? It results in inflation. Why? Because you are transferring money into the accounts of people. There will be demand for goods and services. When there is demand for goods and services, there is no corresponding increase in the supply. Automatically it results in inflation. So you might be increasing the nominal income of the people, the real incomes might be the same because of inflation. And because of inflation, what happens? They will demand more money in their accounts. This is where what you call demand pull and cost push inflation will go together. It can cause more damage than doing benefits. Next problem with the DBT. Okay, authentication. Okay, then we have to identify the people. And there is so much of problem with this e-governance also when it comes to DBTs. For example, take the case of farmers. These MG workers. They are working in the field, and these fingerprints may not match also. That is where it can become problematic. Next, any other problem with the DBTs? I have said from economics point of view. Any other problem with the DBTs? So the question is, how will the government finance these DBTs? How will the government finance these DBTs? How will the government finance these DBTs? Mostly borrowings, through borrowings. If the government is borrowing to finance DBTs, how will the government repay the borrowings? How will the government repay those borrowings? When government is borrowing, what is the principle here? The borrowings will be used to invest in capital expenditure, to create assets, and those assets will be giving you returns, and the returns will be used to pay the interest on the borrowings. Through DBTs, are we creating any assets? So how will the government repay the interest? It results in more fiscal deficit, more primary deficit. More primary deficit. All your borrowings will be going only for interest payments, and the country can get into easily debt trap. For example, right now, as I said, in Tamil Nadu, every woman is given 2,000 rupees every month. Right? Where will the government get this money? Where will the government borrow? And how will the government repay those borrowings? It has to be paid only by increasing the taxes. So the government is giving money to you with right hand, taking away all the money with left hand. And that is where the problem is. This is another problem with the diabetes, right? And then there's a digital divide also in the country. Still, even now, after implementing this Jan Dhan Yojana, opening bank accounts, even now also, if you go by the government of India, around 80% of the people in our country have bank accounts. What about remaining 20%? That is where we talk about digital divide also. And who do not have bank accounts? Mostly poorest sections of society. That is where they would be left out also. That is where the problem is. These are all the problems with the diabetes. They can only be a short-term welfare measure, but not a long-term developmental solution. On the other hand, they can help you in reducing your subsidies, provided the government reduces subsidies in kind. But on the other hand, the government is not willing to reduce the subsidies in kind. For example, take the case of farmers. They are given 6,000 rupees, which is fine. But the governments are giving, state governments are giving these fertilizer subsidies, irrigation subsidies, power subsidies, and MSPs. So that means your subsidy bill is only going up, both subsidies in kind and subsidies in cash. What the DBTs should have been doing is, they should have reduced the subsidies in kind, so that as you have written, we can reduce our administrative expenditure, and then the amount of money can be used for infrastructure purposes. But unfortunately, it is not being done also. So these are all the issues with the DBTs. Since we have discussed these DBTs, we can write about DBTs. Then we will go to citizen charters. Right? Direct benefits transfers. Direct benefits transfers. So what are these DBTs, direct benefit transfers? Write down. Immediately after independence, India had opted for a welfare state. Directive principles of state policy, DPSPs, and preamble emphasize on socialistic ideals of our constitution. Next paragraph. From 1970s onwards, there was a radical shift. In the economic policies of the government from production of goods and services to redistribution of income and wealth income and wealth in favor of weaker sections of society. Weaker sections of society. But these welfare schemes proved to be not so successful, due to very high administrative expenditure, and systematic corruption. Next paragraph. Improvement in digital public infrastructure. Improvement in digital public infrastructure has helped the governments to identify beneficiaries and also to link them to their bank accounts. Jandhan Aadhaar and mobile. Jandhan Aadhaar and mobile is an administrative innovation. Jandhan Aadhaar and mobile is an administrative innovation to remove leakages in implementation of welfare schemes and also to reduce corruption. Next paragraph. Direct benefits transfers. Direct benefits transfers can be done either in kind or in cash. For example, PDS system at present uses the technology to remove fake beneficiaries, and also to reduce leakages. DBTs in cash. Next, DBTs in cash can help the poorer sections during the times of economic distress. during the times of economic distress, DISTRESS. It can help them to satisfy their basic needs and also to come out of poverty It can also help in reviving consumer demand during the times of economic recession. During the times of economic recession. But at the same time, there are many negative consequences of DBTs in cash, direct benefit transfers in cash. What are they? First, the money may not be spent. On the purpose for which it has been given. May not be spent on the purpose for which it has been given. On the purpose for which it has been given. For example, money is transferred to be spent on education of children, but can be utilized for daily consumption purposes. Can be utilized for daily consumption purposes. Next, a transfer of money into the accounts of people. Transfer of money into the accounts of people can lead to overall increase in money supply. Within the economic system. If there is no corresponding increase in the supply of goods and services, it would automatically lead to demand pull inflation. Next problem with the DBTs. financing these DBTs is also a major problem, because if the governments borrow to finance DBTs, it can result in debt trap, DEBT, debt trap, right? It may not be sustained, for longer periods of time, Next problem is a digital divide. In spite of we are giving explanation for this. In spite of drastic improvement in digital public infrastructure, in the last decade, there are at least a significant portion of our population who are yet to become part of a formal banking system. They are mostly from poor, backward and vulnerable sections of society. Poor, backward and vulnerable sections of society. If they are excluded, the entire welfare administration would become meaningless. Next problem. Digital literacy in India is also very low. Which again is a major problem for DBTs. Right. So these are all the problems or the criticisms. Now let us look at what should be done. We have seen the positives, we have seen the negatives. Let us see what should be done. So what do you think should be done? Last year this DBT was asked for 15 marks. Right now we are getting so many fake QR codes also, and right now you can see people are using artificial intelligence left, right and center. They can create your image far better than what you are looking. So what should be done? What can be done? Renewal, know your customer, KYC norms. Okay, but that is where the problem. You are a poor, backward, illiterate villager who will come and verify. Who will come and verify? Is it possible for you to log on to the website and upload the documents for verification? Recently this KYC, it took me at least 2 days to upload all the documents. Then finally I told my bank that please come and take all the documents and you upload them. That is where the problem. Yes. What else can be done? As we have said, these DBTs either in cash or in kind, can it substitute for infrastructure development and employment generation? Obviously not. So what is the solution? So what we are saying here is that if we are giving DBTs in kind, then DBTs in cash should be reduced so that overall subsidies will remain the same. On the other hand, increase DBTs in cash, because if you are giving DBTs in kind, the government is spending a lot of money. I gave you the example. For example, FCI, Food Corporation of India, they spend huge amount of money to procure food grains from the farmers. They spend a lot of money in storing those food grains in their warehouses. They spend a lot of money on transporting those food grains from the FCI godowns to the PDS shops. So you are getting the food grains from the farmers, from the village, from the agricultural fields. From there they are transported to FCI godowns, and they are kept in FCI godowns for a long period of time. And then from there they will go to the PDS shops. In between there is so much of pilferage takes place, leakages take place. So instead of all those things, directly, if the market price of rice is 40 rupees, directly transfer this 40 rupees into the accounts of people. Let them buy it. Right now you must have seen most of these developing countries are criticizing India, African countries. Why? Because India is saying that we need our food grains for our food security. India is the largest producer of rice and wheat. So if we store more food grains, what happens automatically? The global prices will go up. International wheat prices and international rice prices. And they are saying that we are suffering because of what India is doing. That is the reason why the question was asked this year in your Indian economy, GS paper 3. Visible and invisible subsidies which are strongly opposed by WTO also, World Trade Organization. So we are giving this, India is saying that we must look at our own food security and food safety. We have the right. Why this question was asked this year? Because in the recent past, if you happen to read the last 2-3 months newspapers, there are so many articles about these African countries, Latin American countries, criticizing India's this food policy. Please remember, UPSC questions are always related to only current events. That is what you have to remember. They are always. Even WTO also has criticized India. America also has criticized India. America says that India has double standards. For some other products, India says that developing countries should be protected. When it comes to rice and wheat, India says that we must take care of our own interests. Of course, every country follows a policy which is only beneficial to its own interests. That is what Kautilya says in international relations. Self-interest. There are neither permanent friends nor permanent enemies. There are only permanent interests. But forget about the rest of the world. we have to look for ourselves whether this is necessary or not. Obviously not. Give them food coupons. For example, a family of 5 is there. Give them food coupons, and then tell them that go to any kirana shop in your locality. Get the food rice there from there, and they will get money from the government. Then you don't require any FCI. Please remember, market mechanism is the best mechanism for efficient utilization of resources. Whenever you have any dilution of market mechanism, it will only result in wastage and inefficient. That is what is happening with the FCI also. That's the reason why this Shanta Kumar committee also has suggested the same thing. It has said that please close down the FCI. Let us have decentralized food grains, decentralized procurement of food grains. Let the private sector come in storage and warehousing facilities, and let these food subsidies in kind should be replaced with food coupons, or a period of time, remove these food coupons also, transfer money into the accounts of people. You will be saving huge amount of money. Yes. That is what we are saying. Right now, what is the amount of money that FCI is spending? The government of India is spending almost around 3 to 3.5 lakh crores on food subsidies every year. Right? And what is the amount of money that people living below poverty line are receiving in reality? It is only around 1.5 lakh crores. What is happening to the remaining 2 lakh crores? Expenses. You can save that money. Give them food coupons. Tell the villagers that go to any shop in your locality. Give that food coupons to the person there. He will give you the food grains. And tomorrow, if he is giving you low quality food grains, will you take it? Competition is there, so he has to ensure best quality also. That is where in a market mechanism we talk about it. So that is where we talk about DBTs also. That DBTs, we have to say that if you are giving subsidies in kind or subsidies in cash, they should be restricted. They must be restricted. And first and foremost, we have to focus on improving we must focus on overcoming the digital divide. Let there be 100% what is called 100% bank accounts. Especially, as I said, who are the ones who do not have bank accounts? The weaker sections of society, and they are the ones who badly need those things. That is where we have to make DBT more successful. That is what you can write. We'll write few solutions and then I'll give you a break, because people are desperately looking for it. No? Very good. That means on Sunday, reformation has taken place. Right? Renaissance? Right? Is it a renaissance? When you're not asking for break? Yes? No, because you're asking for break only. There is nothing like renaissance. Right on. First, the focus should be on bringing entire population into the formal banking system. Second, digital security is also a very important factor in expanding digital infrastructure. Third, overall subsidies in brackets in kind and in cash should remain the same, full stop. There should be shift towards subsidies in cash to reduce administrative expenditure. Next, technology should be used to identify real beneficiaries. So that overall subsidy bill can also be reduced. Next, lastly, DBTs can only be a short-term welfare measure. And cannot substitute or replace citizen empowerment in the long term. That means the focus should be on empowering citizens by providing them with better education, health and productive employment also, right? So this is all about these DBTs, and then after that, after the break, we can look at citizen charters. And these citizen charters, almost 50% of the case studies, your answer should be citizen charters only. I will tell you also those case studies. Right. So let us now look at citizen charters. As I said, this topic is there in both governance as well as ethics papers. It is there in your ethics section A, and also in your case studies also. Even this year also, at least 2-3 case studies, the answer is citizen charters only. So we will be covering from both your ethics point of view as well as governance point of view. As usual, we will start with why do we need these citizen charters? What is the history of citizen charters? What are these citizen charters? What is a citizen charter? What are the important features of citizen charters? What are the important features of citizen charters? And of course, why they are a failure in India? And ultimately, what should be done? Why they are a failure in India and what should be done? This is how we shall be discussing citizen charters. So let us start with the why aspect of citizen charters. Why do we need a citizen charter? So what we have said is that India has representative democracy, and we continued with colonial bureaucracy, right? We have representative democracy and colonial bureaucracy. As part of representative democracy, participation of citizens in democracy is restricted only to voting in elections. After you vote in elections for the next 5 years, do you have any scope, any opportunity to participate in governance? No. Even at the lowest level also, as we have seen, Gram Sabhas have not been functional at all. All the decisions are taken only by Gram Panchayats. And colonial bureaucracy means that they never believe that they are the servants of the people. They always behave as the masters of the people. So at the end of the day, this democracy in India mostly has been transformed into electoral dictatorship. Once elections are over, for the next 5 years, the governments can do anything, and they will do anything also. People cannot do much. All those reforms in the form of 73rd, 74th amendments have been a failure. That is the reason why, how to ensure participation of citizens, how to make bureaucracy accountable to the people. The instrument that was identified was citizen charters. Two important objectives. One is participation of citizens in governance. Second one is making bureaucracy accountable. If you remember, this is what we have mentioned previously. In a democracy, we say 3 important systems are there. You have the government, and you have the bureaucracy, and you have people. We said that this bureaucracy is accountable to the government. How? Political executive makes bureaucracy accountable with the help of all those instruments like transfers, promotions, postings, suspensions, and everything else. And the government is accountable to the people through electoral process. But the problem is that there is no accountability of bureaucracy. There is no accountability of bureaucracy. So how to make this bureaucracy accountable to the people? The instrument is citizen charters. It is one of the instruments to fix accountability on the part of bureaucracy towards the stakeholders, that is the people. Proceeding further, these citizen charters had their origins in United Kingdom. Please remember, all the governance reforms that we are discussing had their origins in developed democracies. Citizen charters had their origins in United Kingdom. In 1980s, United Kingdom had opted for neoliberal state. It had opted for a neoliberal state in 1980s. As part of Thatcherism, Margaret Thatcher, she was the Prime Minister of United Kingdom. And after the Second World War, like all other countries in the world, UK also has opted for a welfare state after the Second World War. As part of this welfare state, the government was providing services to the people with the help of public sector enterprises. With the help of public sector enterprise. Everything from education to health to housing to roads to transportation, communication, all these services were provided by the governments with the help of a public sector enterprise, like in India also. And as usual, these public sector enterprises were given monopoly. There was no competition. So when there was no competition, what happens? Automatically they would become inefficient. By 1980s, it led to what is called state failure. It led to state failure. Failure of public sector enterprises. And these public sector enterprises had become what we call them as a white elephants. Have you heard about the word White elephant? Yes or no? Yes, what is it? Elephant. Okay, I thought donkey, right? No. Okay, what is this white elephant? Anyone? Pardon? Which is rarely found. No. So when maintenance of any asset becomes extremely costly and unbearable, then we call it as white elephant. Example? You people. Why do you have to go for such a long, drawn examples? Ask parents. Right? Ask parents. That is the advantage, as I said. When, as I told you, I was 5 years old, I had a self-actualization. Gautam Buddha had taken 32 years to become Buddha. Buddha means enlightened soul. I had this kind of enlightenment at the age of 5 when I realized that I'm going to be completely useless in my life. Someone who is above 50 years old now still did not have that kind of self-actualization. I don't want to name the person. You will be knowing. I did not say. So when I was 10 years old, my parents had self-actualization that I am going to be absolutely useless. From then onwards, you have only peace of mind, because that is what we study in our Hindu philosophy. When will you have peace of mind? When there are no expectations. When there are no expectations, right? Then you will have only peace of mind. So coming back here, that is what is called a white elephant. Any asset which becomes, unbearable economically to maintain, wherein the cost is much higher than the returns, it is called white elephants. So public sector enterprises in United Kingdom had become white elephants. So is the case with India. Finally, because of this, United Kingdom had opted for what is called neoliberal philosophy. It is also known as neo-right philosophy. India had opted for it in 1992, United Kingdom in 1980. Right? So what is this neoliberal philosophy? As a part of the neoliberal philosophy, the government has said that they would no longer give monopoly to the public sector enterprises in service delivery mechanisms. They would ensure competition for services, and these public sector enterprises were asked to compete with the private sector, to provide the services to the people. The government will be treating people as customers and consumers. As customers and consumers, they have the right. For example, you are a consumer, you are a customer, you are purchasing a color television. Tomorrow there is problem. Immediately you will call up that service provider and ask them to come and solve the problem within a stipulated time period. That is what is called accountability. Do we have this kind of accountability within the government? For example, water is not coming in from the tap. Can you call up Delhi Jal Board and say that water is not coming? Yes, right? And in Delhi, mostly you get non-vegetarian water. From water, all kinds of reptiles, from anaconda onwards, everything will come. Right? You get a colorful water, different colors from yellow color to green to red, you get. But can we say, and take the case of our roads. Take the case of our roads. If you are driving on main road of Old Nagar, you'll be driving with a lightning speed of 1 km/h. Right? And you go to government hospitals, you are going from the front gate and coming through the back gate. And you take government schools, you know the quality of education. I think some of you must have studied in government schools also, right? You know about that. I can see, yes. You know. So that is where the problem is. Why? Because there is no accountability in the system. There is no accountability. The difference between the private sector and the government is that there is no accountability. As we keep on saying, there is no direct accountability of bureaucracy towards the citizens. There is no accountability. When the Britishers have opted for this, what is called neoliberal state, then they said that if the public sector has to provide services to the people, they must ensure accountability. They must provide quality services to the people, otherwise bureaucracy should be made accountable. Because in development administration all over the world, bureaucracy is only morally responsible but not legally accountable. So how to transform that moral responsibility into legal accountability? The solution is citizen charters. So what happens in a citizen charter? For example, to understand it, very simple example. A government hospital is there, right? A government hospital is there. So citizen charters are formulated by the hospital management, the government hospital management, with the people of the locality. People means here we are talking about citizens. So what does the citizen charter contains? It says about what are the services provided by the government hospital. What are services provided by the government hospital? I am going to a government hospital. What kind of services I can expect? And what are the what is the time period during which I can expect those services? What is the time period? For example, I am going to a hospital with say in a fever. When can I expect the doctor to come and see me? What is the time period? At least in the next 2-3 months, right? Waiting period should be at least minimum 2-3 months, right? What is the time period? And what are the medicines that are available in the hospital? Transparency. Right. So paracetamol is for headache, I think. Fever and headache. Fever, headache, cold. But the problem is that headache is for those people who have head. Why are you talking about paracetamol then? Right? Since when you started thinking that you have what? Right? So coming back here, what are the medicines available? And what are the quality of services they are providing? Then what is the amount of money the government has given to the hospital? What is the amount of money? And who are the personnel available in the hospital? How many teachers, how many doctors, and there's other medical and non-medical staff. Citizen charters contain all this information. They contain all this information. And it should be written in big letters outside the hospital in the name of citizen charters, so that when I go there, I should know what are the services that are to be provided. And if I don't get the services that are promised here, there must be accountability mechanisms. There must be accountability mechanisms. That means the concerned official should be punished. That is what we say citizen charter. Participation. And who will formulate these citizen charters? They are formulated by the hospital management in consultation with the people. In consultation with the people. Can you imagine these kind of things in India? Automatically corruption will be eliminated. Automatically efficiency of bureaucracy will improve. Automatically you have a quality service delivery mechanisms. Right? That is why these citizen charters become very important. And these citizen charters, as I said, were first introduced by former British Prime Minister John Major. His name was John Major, who had become the Prime Minister of UK after Margaret Thatcher. John Major. And these citizen charters were extremely successful in United Kingdom. Why? Because bureaucracy there considered themselves to be true civil servants. They consider themselves to be true servants of the people. They are more than willing to make themselves accountable to the people. And they are more than willing to provide quality services to the people. And they were also successful because there the people are more knowledgeable about their rights. Literacy levels are 100% literacy level, developed countries. People are knowledgeable about their rights. So they can make the bureaucracy accountable also. That was the reason why these citizen charters were extremely successful in United Kingdom. So when they were successful in United Kingdom, in India also we have decided that we should implement citizen charters. 1997, 50th year of independence. In those days it was only called 50th year of independence, not Amrit Kal. Right? So, so in 1997, what happened? A Chief Ministers Conference was held in Delhi to discuss the issue of corruption. Still in those days, societies were still innocent because they were still discussing corruption. Nowadays, you don't find any discussion on corruption. Corruption now has become a way of life. Right? Corruption has become a way of life. So in 1997, Chief Ministers Conference was held in Delhi to discuss the problem of corruption, the menace of corruption. And the conference, apart from so many other measures, has recommended citizen charters. And next year onwards, 1998 onwards, the citizen charters were first implemented by the central government, later by the state governments also. So it's more than 25 years of implementation of citizen charters. So what do we say about them? As usual, their implementation is far from effective. Their implementation is a failure. Second Administrative Reforms Commission in 2009 had spent 2 chapters only on discussing citizen charters. One is social capital, second one is citizen-centric administration. These 2 reports of second ERC spoke about the reasons for failure of citizen charters in India. And the reasons are also not difficult to understand. Why? Because in United Kingdom they were successful for 2 reasons. One, people were aware about their rights. Second, bureaucracy still was a civil service only. They still considered themselves as servants of the people. In India, why they are a failure? One, people are not at all aware about their rights. Second, bureaucracy always considered themselves as masters but not the servants, because of which citizen charters have been a failure in our country. How many of you know about citizen charters? Because they are there for the last 25 years. Do you know? All of you are educated, responsible young people of our country. How many of you know about citizen charters? Now you know the reason why they are a failure. If educated urban sections of society, young people do not know about citizen charters, what about ordinary people in villages? You know the reason why they are a failure. So what happened in India? Most of these government departments and ministries, they formulated citizen charters on their own without consulting citizens. Citizen charter means a charter formulated by participation with citizens. In India, they had remained only what you call bureaucratic charters. It is only the bureaucracy that formulated these charters without consulting people. For example, how many of you know that our UPSC also has a citizen charter? UPSC. After the class is over, you can go to UPSC website and see their citizen charter also. Did UPSC consult you citizens? I did not say beggars. Did UPSC consult you citizens about what kind of services they are expecting? What kind of services you can expect from UPSC? Did they ever ask you? No. Why can't the entire process, right now, entire process, it starts in the month of January when UPSC comes out with the notification. And when will the final results come? Next year, May. Why should it take 18 months to complete the whole process? American president is also elected in 2 months. And for useless services, you are taking? Sorry, I said useless? No, UPSC services, sorry. Right? See, sometimes you speak truth, right? No? So, why should it take 18 months? What nonsense is this? Why should it take 18 months? Right? Why can't you complete the entire process in 6 months? Why can't you complete the entire process in 6 months? For example, come out with the notification today. Conduct the prelims examination 1 month later. Nowadays, entire application filling and everything is only online. Do you have to stand in line like the way you stand for classes? No. Everything is online. And conduct the prelims examination in 1 month. And come out with the results in 15 days. Because OMR sheets only. Then conduct mains and interview simultaneously. Come out the final results in next 2.5 months. Everything will be over in 5 months. Why can't they do like this? Why are they taking so much time? Notification today. In 1 month prelims. After 15 days mains, prelims results. Next within 1 month mains examination. And let mains be followed with personality test also. Mains will be writing around 12,000 people. After the mains exams are over, immediately conduct personality test for all 12,000 people. Combine the marks. Come out with the results in another 1 month. Maximum 2 months. Complete the whole process in 5 months. Why are we still following such anarchic and archaic processes? Why 18 months? That is what we say. Does UPSC ever ask you people what kind of services that you can expect from UPSC? As we have said, why can't UPSC, there is accountability here. For example, you are writing the mains examination. Why can't you receive your answer sheets? You will come to know where you have gone wrong also in the mains examination. If you are completing the whole process in 5 months, immediately you will come to know about your marks in the prelims also. Then you have a lot of time to prepare for next year also. Right? That is what we say citizen charters. Does UPSC ever ask you people what kind of services you want to expect from UPSC? Obviously not. That is where citizen charters in India have been a failure. And the reason why citizen charters are a failure in India is because in the name of citizen charters, these ministries and departments come with what you call the charters which are highly subjective, where performance evaluation cannot be done in a quantifiable manner. Take the case of railways. Right? Railways also has citizen charter. What do they say? They say that they wanted to provide safe and what you call safe journey and also comfortable. Safety and comfort. Right? Imagine it was during the time of Chhat Puja, during this Dasharas, right? You are taking a train from Old Delhi to Patna. and you have booked your ticket also, and you read the resident charter, safety and comfort. You go to the railway station. On the platform, at least 20 million people are there. And nowhere else, even in Kumbh Mela also, you don't find so many people at one place. And you first it will be difficult for you to find out where you are training also. You go for Google search. And you go to the train. Please remember, this happens almost everywhere in India. Any place in India. Recently also you must have seen in some passenger compartment, thousands of people are there. You must have seen. And recently this train accident that took place in Odisha also. There most of the dead bodies could not be recovered because could not be identified because most of them were in that what you call yes. So you somehow you go you try to find out your compartment, and you don't know how, but somehow you are pushed into your compartment. You are standing behind, without your effort, intention, desire, you will get, and you go to your reserved berth there. At least 10 lakh people are sitting there, and you will ask them, and you to show them this is my ticket, and they start laughing at you. They will tell you that India is an ancient democracy, so everything people are sovereign. And this is what happened to one of my students also. He got into IAS from other state, got Bihar cadre, and first time he was visiting Bihar, and he was traveling. Suddenly the train reached Bihar. How do you know? Someone pulled the chain. Your village has come and someone has pulled the chain. Everything democratic, quality service delivery mechanisms. Why should you go to the railway station? Your railway station from your village is 15 kilometers. Pull the chain, yes. So what happened? Someone has pulled the chain. This happened in reality. Till now, I was only fictionalizing the whole thing. And next, someone has pulled the chain. As you know, in those days, I'm not talking about now. Now it has improved definitely. I'm talking about 2006, 2007. At that point of time, Bihar was fully industrialized. The only industry in Bihar at that point of time was kidnapping industry. And those who are from Bihar, they know all these things. Right now it has improved, huge amount of improvement in law and order now. In those days, so someone has pulled the chain. As usual, some people entered into the compartment in a democratic manner, peaceful manner. They have taken away all his belongings, his suitcase, his identity card. The government had given identity card also. And his money, everything was taken away. He had to get down at the next station, call the district collector and tell him that this is what happened, please send a vehicle to me and also some money. That is what? Safety and comfort. That is where the problem, please remember, in every state it is like this only, in every state. So why these things are happening? Because does the railways always consult to you for the kind of services that you can expect from railways, and on top of it you are paying money for it. And till recently you can see, CAG also pointed out the kind of food that is being provided in Rajdhani trains, so bad. It is so bad. That is what CAG also pointed out. Why? There is no accountability. There are no citizen charters wherein railways are making the citizen charters in consultation with the consumers. We are paying for it, still we don't get quality services, and there is no accountability. That is the reason why they are a failure, and that is where we know the solutions. Citizen charter should always be formulated in consultation with the citizens. You must clearly define the services to be provided, and these services should be provided to be defined in objective quantifiable terms. If railways say that we will ensure safety and safe and comfortable travel, What is safety and what is comfort? Please define it so that tomorrow we can make you accountable. And bureaucracy should be made accountable. That is where we talk about social audits. Let the people evaluate the performance of bureaucracy in implementation of these citizen charters, and those who do not perform should be removed from services, so that we can know about what is called the sovereignty of citizens. This is what the solutions. So let us take a few points about the citizen charters. As I dictate, I'll be providing more information also. Starting with why citizen charters? Why do we need citizen charters? Why do we need citizen charters? Representative democracy. Representative democracy, along with the colonial bureaucracy, meant that MEANT meant that there is no scope for citizen participation in governance. There is no scope for citizen participation in governance. India also has opted for centralized top-down approach. To development after independence. Bureaucracy was given absolute monopoly over development process. Absolute monopoly over development process. In a parliamentary democracy, bureaucracy is not directly accountable to citizens. It has resulted in the failure of development administration. Outlays, OUTLAYS. Outlay means expenditure. Outlays could not be transformed into outcomes. Development administration was characterized by inefficiency, wastage of resources, corruption, and failure to provide quality service delivery mechanisms. Quality service delivery mechanisms. Quality service delivery mechanisms. Next paragraph. Citizen charters had their origins in United Kingdom. Citizen charters had their origins in United Kingdom. Welfare state in United Kingdom was also a failure. Welfare state in United Kingdom was also a failure. Welfare state in United Kingdom was also a failure due to monopoly of public sector enterprises. Monopoly of public sector enterprises and dominance of Weberian bureaucracy. Weberian, Weberian bureaucracy. Weberian bureaucracy. In 1980s, economic reforms were implemented wherein the country had opted for a neoliberal state. Neoliberal state. The country had opted for a neoliberal state. Public sector enterprises were forced to compete. They were forced to compete with the private sector to provide services to citizens. The state considered itself as a service provider, and treated citizens as customers or consumers. This you can put it in brackets, neoliberal state. This is what we call a neoliberal state. Next paragraph. Bureaucracy was forced to improve its efficiency and also to make itself accountable to citizens in service delivery mechanisms. Next paragraph. In order to realize these objectives, in order to realize these objectives, the then Prime Minister John Major, MAJOR, introduced citizen charters. Next paragraph. In 1997, Chief Ministers Conference was held in Delhi. Chief Ministers Conference was held in Delhi to discuss the issue of corruption. The conference has recommended implementation of citizen charters. Implementation of citizen charters. Next paragraph. Objectives of citizen charters. First, to ensure participation of citizens in formulating programs and also in deciding the quality of service delivery mechanisms. Second, to transform the moral responsibility of bureaucracy in realizing the objectives of development administration. Into legal accountability. Next, to improve the quality of service delivery mechanisms. Next, to ensure effective grievance redressal mechanisms. Redressal mechanisms. Redressal mechanisms in case of failure of bureaucracy to provide services mentioned in citizen charters. Next, to transform representative democracy into participatory governance. So this is what we say objectives of citizen charters. So that's what we are saying. If you look at it, the government is spending so much amount of money, but we have not seen this expenditure being transformed into outcomes. You can see every year the government is spending so much amount of money on say health sector. If that is the case, what is the reason why our hospitals are in such a poor condition? Where is the money going? Do we know how much amount of money is being spent there? We don't know. Do we know what are the quality of services that we can expect from the government? We don't know. Do we know how to fix accountability on the part of the officials? We don't know. So representative democracy mostly, unfortunately, has transformed itself only into electoral dictatorship. We need accountability. For example, do we know who is the contractor who is responsible for maintenance of roads in front of our houses? Do we know how much amount of money is spent by the municipal corporation on maintenance of roads? And who should be made accountable? That is where the problem is. Do you find these kind of roads in foreign countries? Never. They are so good. That is the reason why their people will pay taxes. They pay taxes because the services provided by the government are very good. In India, as economic survey 2 years back rightly pointed out, one of the most important reasons why we don't find people paying taxes in a voluntary manner is the kind of services that are provided by the government. If you look at the ruling class, they have all kinds of comforts and luxuries, whereas ordinary people, they are only forced to pay taxes, but they cannot expect any kind of services. Where is the money going, and who should be made accountable? As we keep on studying in the whole of polity, is democracy is all about accountability. For example, today there was a very good article in Times of India, Sunday Times, about the Constitution, wherein it was clearly mentioned that 1/4 of our Constitution was directly picked up from 1935 Government of India Act. That is the reason why, in this entire Constitution, in this part, we have only dominance by the state. For example, as we discussed also, fundamental rights, can we call them as fundamental rights? No, they are only fundamental limitations on rights. We still have what is called a police state. There is no accountability, there is no participation. So how to transform this representative democracy into participatory governance? How to improve the quality of service delivery mechanisms? Unfortunately, as you could see in Maharashtra, so many children died within 24 hours. But is there any accountability? This is what happens almost on a regular basis in almost every state. In Madhya Pradesh, in the government hospitals, because of these rats and others, patients are suffering. What is the reason why? The conditions are so bad in government hospitals. When CAG in Bihar has done a survey of PHCs, PHC means primary healthcare centers, it was found out that 98% of PHCs do not exist. They existed only on paper. The doctors are receiving salaries and medicines are brought and staff also are receiving salaries, but where are they? 404 error, not found. So where is the money going? In the remaining 2%, they were used as a cow sheds, buffalo sheds. That is where the problem. And that is why we need Syrian charters. Let the people know what is the amount of money being spent on a particular activity. Let the people know what kind of services they can expect from that money. Let the people know who is responsible for providing those services. Let also people know if the services are not provided, who should be made accountable. That is the essence of Syrian charters. Next, write down, what is a Syrian charter? What is a Syrian charter? What is a Syrian charter? A Syrian charter is a voluntary commitment made by bureaucracy towards Syrians regarding the services to be provided by them. Services to be provided by them within a stipulated time period. Within a stipulated time period. So what are we saying as a Syrian charter here? A commitment made by bureaucracy towards citizens regarding the services to be provided by them within a stipulated time period. If I go to a government hospital, I should know what kind of services I can expect from them and within what time period. That is what is called a Syrian charter. If I go to a government school, I should know what kind of education standards I should expect from a government school. What kind of infrastructure, what kind of personnel that should be there in government schools. And if I am walking on a road, towards the end of the road, there should be Syrian charter. This is the amount of money spent. This is the name of the contractor. This should be the quality of the road. If you have any problems, immediately call up the person. That is what we call accountability. That is where we say we should be moving towards what is called citizen-centric governance. As you have written previously, since independence, we had only bureaucracy-centric governance, and this bureaucracy is never made accountable to the people, because this bureaucracy we have inherited from the Britishers, and the Britishers have made sure that these bureaucrats are never made accountable to the people. That is the reason why we are spending lakhs of. Please remember, people might be thinking that in India the basic problem is lack of money. We have enough financial resources. The problem is misutilization and corruption. Because as I said, and as we discussed with urban development also, for example, BMC, Brahi Mumbai Municipal Corporation, every year they spend around 25,000 crores of rupees only on maintenance and repair of roads before the monsoon season starts. The moment monsoon season starts, what happens? Mumbai would become Bay of Bengal. And then, as I said, people will be traveling in submarines mostly, Titanics, which will sink, right? So, and most of the people walking on the road, while walking on the roads, because it is full of water, you don't know where the pothole is also there. So next step, you will go down, simultaneously you will go up also. There is no accountability. There is no accountability. That is the reason why we need Syrian charters. Next, important features of Syrian charters. Important features of Syrian charters. important features of citizen charters. Citizen charters, first one is citizen charters are formulated by bureaucracy in consultation with stakeholders, in consultation with stakeholders, stakeholders, stakeholders. Next, second, they provide information about the money to be spent. They provide information about the money to be spent on a particular purpose. PURPOSC. Next, services to be provided are defined in quantifiable terms. QUANTI, quantifiable terms. Next, service standards are defined in terms of global standards. Global standards. In terms of global standards. Next, Syrian charters also define, the time period during which the citizens are expected to receive the services. The citizens are expected to receive the services. Next, they also provide information about the beneficiaries. Next, the Syrian charters also contain GRMs, grievance redressal mechanisms. In case of failure of bureaucracy to provide services. Right. So I think we can stop it here for today, and then we will continue. I think again, when do you have class? Next Friday, I think. Thursday or Friday? Friday. We will continue on Friday.